Hi, I'm back. For those who don't know me, what's up, you guys? I'm Chibi Joe, and we are here to discuss the channel. And we'll get right into the actual topic of the video as well, which you see down there. So, I kind of got tired of doing comic book reviews because it was kind of hard to keep up with, and I also wanted to continue reading comic books. So, instead, I decided to kind of do new formats and just figure out what I want to do. We're going to do kind of a little bit more improv with this one. The next one I have planned will definitely be more structured, and we'll be using the whiteboard back there. I don't know how yet, but we'll be using it. So, we are discussing the Ultimate Universe of Marvel. I personally really liked the original. I remember reading Ultimate Spider-Man. My brother got this huge book, that's like this thick, that is Spider-Man, like only Ultimate Spider-Man, and I've read that through probably 20 times. And I absolutely love Spider-Man. It's what ignited my love for Spider-Man besides the animated series from the 90s. And I didn't know until probably 2-3 years ago that the Ultimate Universe was destroyed by a villain known as the Maker. And he was put into this void for whenever he was finally defeated. So that's kind of where we start. And he had somehow contacted this mercenary group to come in. He amalgamates them into a version of himself, like all of them. And then he decided to recreate the Ultimate Universe in his image. And basically went back in time when the Ultimate Universe was still alive and stopped every single superhero from becoming a superhero. Just went through and completely stopped everything. And it gets kind of wonky from here. So he somehow corrupts certain individuals where they are now on his side, like Bruce Banner. And every one of his generals owns a section of the world. The new, Captain America, or Captain Britain, owns all of Europe. You have these two guys that see themselves as gods. Raw and I can't remember the moon god. But they see themselves as actual avatars of these gods. And they own all of Africa except for Wakanda. And then you have the United States, which is during the events of the comic books, is kind of in contention. Like there's little factions within the United States, which is the most American thing I've ever heard. And then you have Russia, which is owned by mutants, which is heavily mutant populated. And then you have Japan, which is its own separate thing. There's a lot of cults and all that going on in Japan in the Ultimate Comics. And so far out of this new Ultimate Universe, we have the Ultimates, which follows Iron Man, Doctor Doom, which is a corrupted Reed Richards. Doctor Doom, who is a corrupted Reed Richards that was supposed to be the ultimate Reed Richards. The other three members of the Fantastic Four are dead. And this Reed Richards was literally captured by the Maker, who is also Reed Richards, and completely just scrambled his brain into believing his name was Doom. And so that's what he goes. But it doesn't go by necessarily Dr. Doom, but goes by Doom. But you also, in the beginning of the Ultimates, they free Thor. They free, and then Thor's captor, follows in and she joins them. And then you get Ant-Man and Ant-Man and Wasp join later on, and then a version of She-Hulk who is this leader of this tribe, she joins. Captain America, the original World War II Human Torch, which was really interesting because, as far as I know, which is very limited, that version of the Human Torch, which is like a cyborg, has not been used in decades. And so that was really interesting to see. Thank you, Mary Marvelite, for teaching me about the Human Torch and his series, which you guys should follow. He's a good friend. But it's absolutely phenomenal of like how this comes together. So that's the Ultimates. I probably missed a few. Oh, also, Miss Marvel. Miss Marvel's there. She's from the future that accidentally got sent back to the past and lost all her memories and had a lesbian relationship. Not that it matters. But because of her memories being gone, she's like, I know I love you, but I don't remember anything about you. And that's heartbreaking. Which was a really good scene. I'm making fun of it, but it really was a decent scene in terms of how it's written. We also have a new Hawkeye. He's a Native American character, and what he brings to the table sometimes with talking about Native American tradition and stuff like that is really interesting. So I recommend reading the Ultimates. I think it's really well done. I think it's well structured. Another one is Spider-Man, which I imagine is probably their biggest seller. Spider-Man has always sold well, as far as I know, except during the Clone Wars. But this is an older Peter Parker. He has 2 kids, married to Mary Jane, and it starts off relatively normal, as you would expect a Spider-Man story to begin, and then just goes to 100 because the Maker's Council, even though the Maker right now is like trapped in this city, like he can't get out, and there is like a time limit until he's free. So like with New York, it goes from being controlled by Stark and another person that I don't remember the name of, and it gets owned by Kingpin, and Kingpin has 5 like lieutenants, including I believe a secret 6th one, and that's wild. Harry Osborn is Green Goblin, because but he's a good guy. You find out like way later that his wife is Mysterio. Like I think that was like the last issue I read that you find out his wife has been Mysterio, which is one of the lieutenants. And she's like, "Yeah, we're working on it. They think you're dead." And it's just like, "Oh my god." Peter Parker's on the run because he doesn't want to endanger his family. So I'm really kind of curious what happens whenever he sees Harry again. Or when he at least, at the very least, sees Green Goblin again. Like, who the hell is this Green Goblin? I will say I kind of wish they would have not have revealed that Mysterio was his wife. I would have found it a lot more fun if they would have kept that a secret until Peter finds the Green Goblin again, and then um and then you can go from there. But it is what it is, and it's still a cool reveal regardless of when they did it. But it would have been a lot more intense for the reader if they would have waited. So yeah, you also meet Sandman, who is being like constantly discombobulated in like an electrical field. Really interesting. Like, you see all of these villains and heroes, and like some of them are good guys, some of them are bad guys. And like some of them are like have switch sides, and it's just so fascinating. Like, Mysterio isn't like a person, it's like a cult, kind of like an assassin's guild. um Black Cat was originally one guy, and then he gave it down to his daughter, which I think is canon in the 616, but we got to actually see it happen in the Ultimate 2024 universe. And she's like the same age as Peter's kid, which Peter's kid is now another, because of a suit that Dr. Octopus or Dr. Otto Octavius, he's not Doc Ock yet. I don't know if he'll ever be Doc Ock, but if he does, he's not Doc Ock yet from what I've read. The suit has Peter's personality, and so when Peter disappeared because he got captured by Kraven, the suit did its thing and mimicked him, and now his child Richard is like a second Spider-Man because of that suit. So it's really interesting. I also think it's probably the most cleverly written out of all of them, just because you have like the wisecracks from Peter and Peter's kid. But another one is Black Panther, which is based, of course, around Wakanda. And Killmonger is a good guy. Storm is with Killmonger. And Black Panther kind of like isolated the city from the Maker. And so now Black Panther is like going after the two false gods, as he would call them. And there's like you're learning about vibranium and this like other vibranium, like this anti-vibranium. And that's interesting. I think they're putting too much into it. I don't know a lot about Black Panther and how their stories are told. So this could be normal for Black Panther. I felt it was really kind of odd. But I also think most comics have like the whole different kinds of kryptonite is like weird. But so I really like this. I probably like Black Panther the best because it's just so intense and it's just nonstop, and you get to see like references to other people, and I love it. My other favorite, which I've only read I think 2 or 3 issues of, is Ultimate Wolverine. He is the new Winter Soldier for Russia, and he has been fully brainwashed. It did seem like from the last issue I read with his run-in with Gambit and Shadowcat, that his memories are still in there. They're just very muddled. I'm waiting for the moment he turns on everyone, because the moment he does, everyone is dead. This is a Wolverine that I would honestly say is probably more ruthless than the other ones I've read. And I've read quite a bit of Wolverine-based comics. I love Wolverine. Wolverine and Cyclops and Spider-Man have always been like my top 3 Marvel characters. So like, this is a Wolverine that will just walk in and just slaughter a room, no questions asked. And I'm sure like there's other comics that he did that, but there's just something different about this one with him being the Winter Soldier, where he's just like, yep, everyone dies. I didn't like it because some of my other favorite X-Men have died, and I'm very sad about that. We have yet to see Cyclops, so I'm really interested in seeing how they do that. I imagine he's probably the leader of the Resistance. It would just make sense, either him or Professor Xavier. Maybe Emma Frost, but no, I feel like it's more Cyclops. It feels like a Cyclops thing. So, and like we know, like Jean Grey is being forced to like break Wolverine's mind, and so like really intense. And then there's the X-Men, which is based in the Japanese territories. The font, the art style is very anime-ish, very like generic, not generic, but like very old styled manga art, which I think was really neat. I don't like the story. It just feels kind of, we need something to happen over here, so here's what's happening. I liked it in the beginning, and then it just kept droning on and on. And it feels like one of those animes where one little thing happens, and we gotta focus on that one little thing. And there's been good moments, like learning about the cult that's involved with the Japanese government. It was really interesting. But I think overall, that one kind of falls short compared to like the other ones, which are like really well structured and all that. The story just doesn't feel that way, and I'm sure that was intentional because it's about children, and children are not necessarily the most structured beings on the planet. But it just doesn't feel aligned with the rest of it. So, I think overall, X-Men's probably my least favorite. So, in terms of the overall feel of the Ultimate Universe, I really find it interesting because things that happen in other comics is referenced in things, which happens in all connected universe comic books. I understand that, but it feels like everything that's happening in everywhere else actually matters, because that is what defines the various faction powers across the land. So like, yeah, Kingpin is now leader of New York, but that wouldn't have happened. It had the things that happened with Stark and his business partner wouldn't have happened. That if that didn't happen, then we wouldn't be dealing with the Kingpin heading New York. If Tony Stark wasn't the genius he was, Captain Britain's eye would still be there. Like, and you see him afterwards in the Spider-Man comics. And of course, if you haven't read the Ultimates, then you don't know how he missed his eye. And so I'm really interested in just seeing how this continues. I think my biggest worry is, what do you do whenever they eventually defeat the Maker again? Does the Ultimate Universe just fade back into non-existence? Is there going to be normalcy? I think that's what I'm struggling with. Is they've set it up where there's a timeline, which is nice, because that makes the readers want to buy more. But what are they going to do after they defeat the Maker? Because the Maker's the big bad, like probably one of the biggest bads in Marvel history. So like, especially if you ask him. So like, if you beat him, feels like the D&D campaign is over. So what do you do after you've beaten him? And I think that's what I'm most interested in. Is I need to know who the next big bad is, or is there ever going to be a big bad and it's just going to be a lot of smaller stories? Or is this just a temporary thing to try and grasp that freshness that the Ultimate Universe had back in the early 2000s. I don't know. I'm not super smart about comic books. I've only just started really reading them, but it's hard for me to imagine that they're just going to stop writing the Ultimate Universe whenever they're done with the Maker. Because the Maker has to be killed. Like, it's to the point now where this is the end game, whether that means that the Ultimate Universe gets destroyed a second time, or the Maker actually dies. And I mean, you can bring back the Maker. The comic book characters always come back. But for the sake of this story, those are what feel like the options. And I just have a hard time with that. It's like, oh, you have a good thing going. You have all these consequences of people's actions. And, like, Peter has this great power, comes great responsibility, but he's older now, so he actually can grasp what that means. So he's a little bit more responsible with it. I don't know. I'll see you guys next time. Have an awesome day and a good night.